Okay, we've got 18 people so far. We'll give it a couple more seconds and then we will go live to the garden. Great. Okay. Well, let's kick off from here. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's junior lecture. We have split out from the other fleets so that we can do something specific to Oppies. And we're bringing you live from Sandy Down with a video link in the garden. And so we've got tonight our lead Oppi coach, Ollie Hill, and our very own Santi Sesto Cosby, who is our reigning British national champion and our bronze medalist at the 2020 European Championships. So there are a few people who know more about making an Oppi go fast in the world than Santi here. So we're very, very lucky to have those guys. So I'm going to hand over now in a second to pin this onto the live link in the garden and go and join them. And Ollie will introduce the session. So message to Freddie, if you can take yourself off mute, and I'll hand over to you now.
Okay.
Right, if you point at me. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this into two halves. Santi is going to do the bit with the sails and making your boats go quick, because I think he's got the most experience in that. I'm going to do the bits of making sure that your boats don't break and that they look in and they're in the condition that we want them to be. So I've got quite a large list of things that we spotted at the Euros this year, and I know on your boats these things will be broken. So if we go through this list on this boat and see what we think this boat looks like and what you need to look for in your boat. Okay? Can everybody hear me? Because I've got no screen, nothing. All I can see.
Can everyone hear him?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear.
Right. I'll carry on. Okay, so Santi, first thing we're going to do, flip the boat over on its side again. Again?
Oh, we'll have to do this.
We don't need to worry about it. So just chuck it that way a bit more. Right. So if you can come and look in here, or actually look through the top first. So if we look down in here, I grab that roving light.
It's just there, it's just there.
I whack that light in it. Can you just move the camera in here? Right, so if you can see at the top of your daggerboard case, you've got those funny little strips of tape. Can everybody see that? I presume you can, because I can't hear you. So that's called jack tape. And what that does is make the gap between the sides of your daggerboard a little bit smaller. So your boat, when it comes out of the mold in the factory, is designed to be a little bit too big, and then we put tape in to make it tighter. So Santi, if you slide your daggerboard in, and this is how you'll check it at home. You're going to get your boats out, you're going to put them on a cover, and you're going to capsize them. Now, if you come around here, what we're going to look at is on the other side. So you'll have some jack tape up at the top of the box up here, and you'll have some other jack tape down here. Now, what this does is stop your daggerboard from clunking over sideways. So if you can see here, there's pretty much no movement in that whatsoever. The boat's just moving sideways. Who has a boat that when they throw their shoulders out or go over a wave, they feel their daggerboard go clunk like that? On mute, so nobody can talk to me. But I bet there's people out there. So we need to make sure that we get this nice and packed tight. The only difficulty with that is if we make it too tight, you won't be able to get your daggerboard up or down easily. So it's a bit of a compromise between the two. Okay?
It does stop the flow of the boat as well. It does slow you down a lot. It does make a big difference.
Okay, whip that daggerboard out then. And we'll put the boat back up right again. Right, next thing I'm going to look at. If we can hop back in here, that's my light on. Now, this is something that people never seem to check, but I think is one of the most important things on your boat. So, I move that out of the way. That mast cup has a lot of load on it from all your sail. So every time you go and it's super, super windy, you're putting a lot of force on it going that way and that way. So easiest way to check whether it's doing okay, if I can just get my hand in behind you. Is just to slide it out. So all I'm doing is putting the cup all the way forwards on the screw. Trying to see what that would do is just pop it out. Okay, so we've taken the cup out, and there's a couple things to look for on these. The main thing being, can everyone see where that screw is welded onto the little cup thing there? So what happens very often is over time, I think a lot of the winner ones are pretty bad with this, is that weld will start to crack and you won't know that there's anything wrong with it until you pull your sail in and it goes bang. We're also looking basically anywhere where you see a crack and it's time to replace it. Because if this goes bang, what it will do is it will take out all the bits of fiberglass around the side of it. So I'd like everybody to check these this winter as well.
I'll chuck this back in.
Yeah. So Santi will pop that back in for me, or so I'm going to look at something else.
No, this one.
Right. Okay, other things that I think may be broken or about to break on your boat. Tow strap rope. Why might that be a bad thing if that breaks? Because you're hiking on it. So if that rope goes bang, you're going to end up in the water. And the thing is, it's a rope that we never adjust. So you will have that sat in that position for years at a time. So it's just worth pulling it back and seeing what it looks like underneath. So I'd say that one actually looks okay, but I would go at least 4 times round with a bit of rope on that because it's not worth it. Okay. Then if we go forwards to the main block. So there's 2 different ways that people have these attached. Who has the little plastic cup that goes over the top from Winner? So inside of that, there'll be a bit of rope that goes around the block and then onto that bit of metal right at the bottom. And that will be covered very nicely by that little plastic cup that stands the block upright. So that's fine, except you can't see at all what's going on inside of that. So if you've got one of those plastic black cups, can I just ask you to peel it up and just look inside and see what the rope's like underneath? Because again, you can't really see that going wrong until it does. Okay, if you've got a system like this, which is lots of metal, just make sure that this ring isn't going to fall out. The split ring, don't know whether you can see it. You can see it, camera, can you see it?
I think I
that
can.
guy in there, okay? So we want to make sure that that's really secure and not going to fall out, because again, that's the sort of thing you can't really fix on the water. You just grab the rudder, Santi. Tiller. Okay, if we go over to the boom now. I've not done this in a very good order. There's a lot of moving around. So one of the main things we had at the Euros was this ring on your boom span. So I think a big difference in the UK, we don't seem to care how this is attached, but in the class rules and how IODA, which is the big organization in charge of all of the Oppi events in the world, interpret it, is that this ring cannot slide along your boom. So I know on some boats, what you can do is grab your main sheet and pull it that way, or pull it that way, and your ring will slide along to where you want it. So that's not okay. What you need to do is untie it from this end over here, tie a little knot around the ring, and then back up to the other end. But when you tie the knot, you need to make sure that that ring is really well positioned in the right place. What you can do is have more than one ring so that you can see, so that you can clip onto a couple of points, depending on how windy it is.
And Ollie, could you just give a bit more detail on where you want those rings to be? Do you want it directly above the main?
So what I would do is I would have probably 2. I would have one directly above the main sheet, and then I would have another one where the main sheet sort of hits the dagger ball case. So if you imagine you draw a line from your main sheet and it's clipped onto your boom and it goes up to the ring, I would move that ring along until it just clears the dagger ball case. Any further forwards and it will hit the dagger ball case every time you tack, but any further back and we're not getting the advantage of it being further forwards. The reason we put it further forwards is that we don't pull down on the boom so much when it's super light. But when it is really windy, we actually really want that leverage to make the main sheet lighter to hold.
And how much gap should there be between that bridle and the boom when you're loaded?
Maximum. So the class rules specify maximum of 100 millimeters. And a good thing to do, like Santi's got here, is to have a bit of safety rope. So I think that's actually in the class rules for the UK. But what this also does, it means if one of these bits of ropes break, you still have 2 attachment points with the boom. So your main sheet will still keep working. And it stops you from putting your head in between the triangle, which is a safety thing. Okay.
Thank you.
If anybody's got any questions at any point, please do turn the microphone on and ask. Otherwise, I'll just keep rambling on for half an hour.
And sorry, if you do unmute, please can you just say your name, because we have got the camera spotlit onto Ollie, so we won't know who's talking.
Okay, right, let's crack on. Okay, next thing. Okay, I would like to look at your UJ, which is here. So this bit of rubber, just watch your heads out of the way a little bit from the safety distance. Can everybody see that? It's probably better if we put the light like that. So what we're looking for here are cracks and signs that it's about to break. So if I move my camera out of the way, can everybody see that big crack in the UJ there that I'm sticking my finger into? If we see that, that is a very good sign that we need to replace that, because that will snap at any point during the winter. And the best way to stop these from going like this is to pop your tiller extension off when you put your rudder into its bag. Think about the way that you store it normally, camera, is you store it in your bag like that, which means all the time you're bending that bit of plastic. So if you can pop the tiller extension off and leave it so it's straight, that's much better. Okay, Santi, can we pop your sail back in, please? And it is going to demonstrate perfectly for me. Right, can everybody observe Santi trying to put the sprit back on, please? Santi, try and put your sprit back on normally. Right, put your sprit back on. Okay, so what's that classic sign of, Santi?
This rope being too small for the cleat.
Okay, so the rope's too small. What does the rope look like? Does it look
stuck.
new, or is it a bit fluffy and quite old? I mean, that's very fluffy. I would also say the rope's quite old. What else do you think that is? If it's not the rope, what else could it be? The cleat itself. So if we can shine in there, I have already had a go today. If you just shine, if you can move the camera in there, I've already had a go this afternoon at scratching up the little cleats to make it sharper, which is what you do. You can do that or replace the cleat. And it's the same with the kicker. The more we use them, the more the rope's going to get fluffy, the less it's going to grip. So the first thing you do is change the rope. And if you keep changing the rope and it still keeps slipping, then it's time to change the cleat, which is not a massively difficult job. So you and your parents should be able to do it. Okay, Santi, if you can just lift your mast up, please, by like 20 centimeters. Mast up. Mast. The other one. Thank you. Right. So this here, everybody knows what this does and how this works. So this stops your mast from wearing away on your boat, or your boat from wearing away on your mast. Now, Santi, what do we think of the condition of that collar?
Not amazing.
Not amazing. So if we start to wear through this plastic, it's time to be putting a new one on. Now, how do we do that, Santi?
So you use the easiest method is to use your boom.
Yeah.
And just clip it on there and just knock it down, and it comes off really easily.
Yeah.
And you can heat it up as well.
Yeah. So if you heat up the collar, you make that get bigger, and you should just be able to slide it on. You can also make your mast super cold, which I don't think we have an issue with today. So it's pretty good. Okay, we need to just be...
Santi,
go on.
Where do you buy replacement ones of those for your boats?
Personally, you can just get them anywhere. Most of the time they're the same, so I just go to the chandlers in Leamington. You can also buy them online at Optimax
It's
or
Opti parts, isn't it? It's
Opti
just
parts.
it's a standard bit.
yeah, they're all the same. So there's not really any gains or losses from that. It's just you have to have it. It does help. Stops it from wobbling around. as
Yeah,
well.
so that this is just as important doing this as it is to make sure that your dagger board's still. Because if our mast isn't upright, there's no point in putting lots of effort and energy into trying to keep our boat upright by hiking super hard. So I think these two things, dagger board and the collar,
Yeah.
are pretty key to try and make sure that we've got sorted. Okay, another thing I'm liking about this boat is the fact that it's got a sprit block on. So lots of people at the moment have just get
Rings.
one.
Yeah. That's the light one. So,
Lots of people have something like that on their sprit system. So this is really light, really fancy and very fashionable, but there is quite a lot of friction in pulling your sprit on through that. So parents, I think I'm speaking to here, if we've got a low friction ring attached to this upper sprit line, this needs to be changed out for a block.
yeah,
Because
it's also a lot
actually with
easier.
the low friction rings, I can't get enough sprit on as a coach. So there's no way the sailors are able to get enough sprit on either. So
This is actually a roller. So this actually rolls. So it's barely any work. It does the work itself. Whereas that one you fully have to pull hard and do all the work yourself. And it becomes really, really tight on it in wind as there's lots of pressure.
yeah, very difficult. Okay, shall we flip the boat over and look at some things to do with the actual sail?
Oui, oui.
Okay, hang on, do you want me to go at the back or me at the front?
No difference.
I just check the mask. Apologies, everyone. I'm getting there.
Yeah, technical difficulty. That's good.
Right. You want to start walking. So, Santi, if it was sub 5 knots, so less than 5 knots of wind, what are we trying to do with our sail? What are you doing? What are you thinking about?
Well, in sub 5 knots, I'm going to start with the lower section of our sail.
Okay,
so-
so how would you divide up your sail? Where's the lower section? Where's the upper section?
So I really say the upper section I would call the sail ties and
Can you just move that a little bit so you can see the whole sail?
Yeah. The sail ties and the top tie and diagonal, because top tie diagonal is really key in winds. So if we start with the diagonal and the top tie.
Okay, what are we trying to achieve with our top tie and diagonal then? In less than 5 knots. What's our overall aim with our sail?
You want to have a nice, clean, flat, not flat, like deep, powerful sail.
Okay, what do you mean by clean?
As in, you don't want to have lots of lines, lots of jags. All of that is like a big no-no. So if you come here a sec, so when we tighten this lots, see how it, now that it's nice and tight, if you want to see how all of this, touch that, it's really tight. In the wind, that's just going to keep a bubble here that just flattens off the entire sail. And then we loosen it off.
So what are you trying to do by loosening that then? What's your aim?
We lose this here, so this has all become nice and flat, and it opens up this section of the sail and gives this a bit of gap here that leaves this. Yeah.
Okay, so if you make that super tight, when would you be making that sail tie really, really tight?
In lots of wind.
Okay.
For 2 reasons. You want to have it tight so it doesn't slip, and also tight to flatten off the sail.
Okay, so we're saying that sail tie flattens off the top sort of quarter at the front of your sail.
Yeah, it controls this area.
Okay, right. What else would you be doing? We're still sub 5 knots. We're not yet.
Sub 5 knots.
Sub 5 knots. So really light drifting conditions.
So all the sail ties just have it at about that. Do you want to zoom in on that?
So how would you
just
adjust?
About that
how
much.
Would you adjust your sail ties every day?
Ideally, you should. because they do play a key role. They really control all of this part of the sail is just controlled by this. So it does make it. You should be doing them every day, like, and ideally let the kids do it, because then if you do it, let the sailors do it. Then the sailors, when they learn a lot more about the sail and about their rig and everything. If they do it, because they learn about the depth and stuff, and they get a more in-depth knowledge.
Okay, so we've talked about sail ties, front of the sail. What other controls have we got?
So obviously a big main one is our diagonal kicker. So as you can see, you pull on.
How would you be setting your kicker then in less than 5 knots of wind speed?
Sub 5 knots. What I would do is pull the sail into the corner.
Okay, let's do that.
So
okay, so if you can see that, I have got our main sheet into what I think is roughly about the corner from where I am.
that's that. So you want the corner, and then what you're just going to do is let it out loose and then tuck it in. So then you've got this.
How do you do that on the water then? How do you achieve that on the water? Because at the moment we're doing it in the boat park. How would you set your kicker on the water in less than 5 knots then?
In less than 5 knots, do the same. I just put if you pop up your dagger board, it makes it easier, it makes the weight more distributed. You pull into the corner, pull on just lightly, tuck it in, and then when you release, and then sheet in again. You see how now you've got this little bag here that makes sure that the sail downwind and upwind, if it goes really light, it won't pop up high and close off the sail, but it'll keep it low enough to keep the wind in the sail.
So upwind in less than 5 knots, would you actually want any kicker on upwind at all?
Not really. When it's in the corner, you don't want it.
You want it ready, don't you?
Yeah.
So when you go downwind, straight away the kicker is tight.
Exactly.
So that we don't make your boat super rocky, but upwind, we also don't want lots and lots of kicker on.
So you have the nice.
So if I pull lots and lots of main sheet on, can you just look at the sail here? You come and stand down by where the dagger is, probably a nice view.
Yes.
Okay, so this is with our main sheet set very nicely. What's happening is I'm pulling the main sheet on tighter or putting more kicker on. What's happening to the shape of our sail there? Just whack more sprit on, please. Okay, can everybody see what's happening to this back part of the sail and where your battens are? It's coming in like that. Now what that does is make it very difficult for the wind to go through your sail. So a lot of what we're trying to do in light winds, we make it easy and nice and open so that the wind can flow out of your sail. Make it very easy. Okay, so kicker.
Ollie, just time check. We've got about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Ollie.
Right, we'll finish light wind because that's one of the main ones I want to do.
Light winds on your outhaul, you should be having. So when you pull your sail into the corner, what you want to just about start seeing is you want to just about start seeing these scallops. That's it.
Okay, and why are we doing that? Why are we trying to achieve that?
So here, as you can see, you see this now has opened up. You can see how much depth there is now in this in the middle of the sail.
We keep saying depth.
Well, it creates power because the wind can really fill into the sail and give you a nice.
So the deeper our sail,
the more power.
Okay. And generally, how do we make our sail deeper? What do we do with controls to make our sail deeper? Loosen. So loosen generally makes things more powerful. Tightening does what?
It flattens off.
Flattens it, stretches it, pulls it out tight. Okay, so we're saying that we're going to ease our outhaul until we just get those scallops starting to see. Can you just move the camera down so we can see that? So can you just see that we're getting
starting to appear?
Yeah, little bumps there. Little moth. Okay, what else have we got? What's another super key control on the front of our sail? I think the moth will leave. There we go.
The sprit.
Okay, so we've got the sprit as well. Now, what's the sprit doing?
Holding up the sail.
Holding up the sail.
Yeah.
What else does it do? Because it doesn't just do that.
Oh, it controls this around that batten area.
Okay.
Because if you.
So what happens to the shape as we pull lots and lots of sprit on? Or try to with your slippery cleat. Okay. If you move back around here and look up the sail again. Can we all see how the back of the sail? What's happened there, Santi?
It's become super hooked. As this has pulled more tension, it's become tighter, more hooked in.
Okay, so those battens are pointing more where?
Up.
they're pointing more into the center of the boat. And what's that doing to the air?
Really shutting it off. It's not
Really
letting
making
good
it very
flow
difficult
in the wind.
to flow out your sail.
Yeah.
Okay, so where would you be setting your sprit for these conditions?
Sub 5 knots. You want, when you're going upwind, you want to just about start seeing these. If you come here, can you see these little lines start to appear? That means that you have enough depth. But then if you hit a lull, which is most likely in sub 5 knots, it won't mean that then you get another one of these to appear.
Okay, so what do those two creases mean? What does if the crease is pointing upwards, what does that mean?
There's too much sprit.
Okay, and what's the other crease that we get? So if the crease is pointing from the end of our boom to the top of our mast, what does that mean?
We've got too little sprit.
Too little sprit.
Yeah.
Okay, what other control do we have? What I think is the most important control.
And Sandy, just before we move on from sprits, one of the things that we see a lot from the safety boats is that you know, as people wind on their main sheet tension, you start getting the creases. Should you be adjusting your sprit for full main sheet tension or for general conditions?
So personally in sub 5 knots, you're not going to be moving the main sheet loads, and if you're racing, when you go downwind, you should be letting a sprit off. So for upwind, you want to have it just like this, with the just little creases appearing, and because that will be fully tensed in, and then when you go downwind, you release it. You can always slide forwards and just hit it like that, and those creases will appear, but when you're downwind, they won't.
Okay, and I think what Dan was sort of getting at there is, if you were sailing in 5 knots, would you be setting your sprit to the gusts or the lulls for that day?
The lulls.
Why?
Because in the lulls, as you've got less pressure, that's the most important time that you want to just be focusing on your boat still moving and getting through. In the gusts, everyone starts moving, everyone will start having little creases and stuff. And if you rig to the gusts, in the lulls, you won't be moving. And in the gusts, you'll be moving a tiny bit faster, but you just want to be moving in the lulls. In the lulls, if you keep moving and everyone else hasn't got a good rig for that, you absolutely fly past them.
Okay, so we're saying that setting the sail to the lulls is more important than setting it to the gusts.
Yes.
Very generally. Okay. How are we doing on time? I've got no idea.
We're right up on time. We're a couple of minutes over, so maybe.
Okay. If we could open it up to questions from anybody, because I know that we've just talked about a lot here. So if anybody's got any questions, they want to open their mic, tell me who they are, and then ask the question. Or Santi, either one of us. I know how my lecturers feel.
I've never seen this fleet so quiet. Is that because people can't unmute? Do I need to change over a setting? Is someone going to open up with a question?
This happened last week.
Bewildered silence.
It's good.
Okay, so I don't believe that you've not got any questions. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put together some pictures and try and make what we've just said into some sort of a document that you guys can read, a bit almost of a tuning guide. And we will circulate that out to you, because I understand that what we've said is half an hour of a lot of information. So if we can make something for you to make it easier to understand, and we'll get it out to your parents so that you can have a read before we start sailing. Okay?
Yes.
Leah's got a quick question. Sorry, Leah's got a quick one.
What would be the best mast rate for 5 knots of wind?
Santi, I'll let you take that one.
This is Leo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, if you're in the lighter end of the fleet, then in light winds, I would have it in inches at around 110, 110.
But what else can we use other than numbers? Because sometimes we can't get our tape measure out on the water.
On the water, the ideal that you're looking for from 5 knots to about maybe 12, 13, 14, is you just want it as flat as you can get it to the boom.
Okay, so do you want to move the camera around so that we can see what we're like at the moment?
Show it down
because
there.
I think I've done a reasonably good job of doing that. Okay, if you move down to the end of the boom. So Santi, explain that again.
Yeah,
And now we've
so
got the camera view.
if you can see, you see how this. It's easier if I can do it. So you want this here, as you can see now. You want the boom to be as flat as you can, next to horizontal to the transom. Yeah. Gunner. Either way. And so yeah, so you want to get it flat as you can. This just means you've got the average of the best, because obviously the further back you have it, the more pointing you've got, but less power in the sail. The further forwards, the more power you've got, but the less pointing.
Okay, so and how can you do that on the water other than looking yourself? Who can help you with that?
Oh, your coach, because
Okay.
other sailors,
So
they can see
coaches
really
can help.
easily.
Who else can help?
Other sailors.
Other sailors.
Your amigos.
See. Okay. Have we got any other questions? That was a good one. Thank you very much for that one.
Thank you, Leah.
It's 6:05, so we may need to wrap it up there. Okay. So please submit any other questions over the WhatsApp, and we will get some photos set up in the session. We've also recorded this session, so you can pick this up on replay if you want to go back over it on the Royal Leamington website. And sorry, I'm just going to cancel the spotlight, so hopefully you can see me now. So I just want to thank Ollie and Santi for what I hopefully think you'll find has been a really, really useful lecture this evening. And please keep the feedback coming on whether you want these to be longer, shorter, a bit more detail. Lots of feedback is very, very welcome as we get used to doing these. And so with that, we'll close tonight's call. Sorry, Lucy's asked me something.
Sorry, brilliant.
Right, Lucy's telling me it's brilliant. Sorry. So the final thing is that we have now published all of the winter training dates. The entry system is open, so please go through that with your mum and dad and get yourself signed up as soon as possible so that we know what numbers we're working with, and look forward to seeing you on the water very soon. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.